The impeachment proceedings against President Donald Trump in the House continue, with the Intelligence Committee wrapping up its investigation and the Judiciary Committee beginning its own. What have they concluded thus far, and where is the investigation headed? For context and analysis on the latest developments, Carolee McGrath sat down with political consultant Anthony Cignoli and Western New England University professor John Baick.
Well, today was the first day of hearings, and today was the day that there were four legal experts, four law professors, three selected by Democrats and one selected by the Republicans. The Democrats put in very clear terms that what the president did, his conduct, is impeachable, and in fact that he should be impeached and he should be convicted. The Republicans' arguments were a bit stranger. They were more along the lines of, well, this is not quite that bad, plus you haven't taken your time. The Republican seems to be more like delaying rather than exonerating the president. So in terms of optics, this is not a great day for Republicans. I'm not sure how much this is going to matter in the long run, though.
But the professor who testified today on the Republicans' behalf, Jonathan Turley, did say he's not convinced that this was a crime, that a crime has been committed. And he even admitted in his opening statement that he's not somebody who supported Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. He had that caveat to what he had to say. But as you listen to it all, and listening to it 2 or 3 more times after on tape, he makes a couple of other clear points as well, is that part of that is because, gosh, there seems to be a lot of information missing. In fact, he said 95% of what we would want to know isn't here. But that 95% that's not there is from witnesses that the President of the United States will not allow to testify. So there were some touchbacks back and forth. And as people are taking apart what Turley has said, he makes the case, not enough here. And he also made the other case, too. Well, gosh, Watergate was so much longer, 2 years versus this amount of time. But completely different situation, time-wise, certainly. A 400-page report that's been issued, that's there. If you look at that and you look at the Mueller report before it, will that all be looked at now by these committees as well? They look at Mueller and this together on impeachable offenses. Turley...
Are they allowed to do that? I thought they were just supposed to stay with that July 25th phone call, which was what the whistleblower had brought forth. Are they allowed to now go back and bring up other charges against him?
Yes, they're allowed to bring in anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's the other thing, and I know we've talked about it a few times in the past. Once the inquiry begins, it allows you to take a look at a lot. Once the hearing begins, you can call forth all kinds of witnesses or information or details that you want to take a look at. That's the wild part of this, that this has gotten to this point. This is dangerous for the president. It is dangerous for Republicans. It is something to be nervous about. And certainly the Republicans are, doing, as the other side would normally do, the partisan spin of this. But the reality is, this is some dangerous ground we're on right now.
But isn't it dangerous as well for the Democrats? Because it certainly could backfire with 2020 coming at you, because Republicans will say, oh, look, now they're throwing in everything. We have these impeachment hearings, and they just wanted him gone from the beginning. Is there a danger with that?
The polls are pretty strange about this, because there was an initial rise in terms of the public saying that he should be impeached and removed, and then it's kind of stayed in place even with these hearings. And again, I'm not sure today is going to change the needle on that. Yet at the same time, we have to remember that Watergate began with a break-in. And Watergate was the tip of the iceberg of massive corruption and massive abuse of power. When it comes to the Trump administration, this one phone call is part of a larger pattern. And the president doesn't want these things to get out there. There's a lot of evidence and there's a lot of people. And if they're brought forth before a House committee, and if they are forced to testify, there are times where you can take the Fifth Amendment, other times where you're just told, well, no, you can't take the Fifth. We are going to find you blameless in your testimony. And if a witness is forced to do that, what could happen could very easily sink the president's time. Yet, there's a delaying game. This is all right now in the hands of the courts. John Roberts may be the deciding factor in all of this. If these witnesses are forced to testify, if the evidence is released, this could change the American public's opinion quite a bit.
Let's talk a little bit about the July 25th phone call, that the charge that the Democrats had brought forth. It was that the president had demanded a quid pro quo, was going to withhold aid from Ukraine in order for them to look into the 2016 elections and Joe Biden. That was the crux of the matter. Did you feel that the witnesses' testimony in the Intelligence Committee was compelling, and was there a certain witness that stuck out to you?
I think it was all compelling, especially the former United States ambassador who came forward and said, here's everything, here's what went on. The others who spoke about, the phone call that they overheard, Stunning in that regard.
But not everybody heard that phone
Yeah,
call. A
that's the
lot
thing,
of people
sure.
testified and said it was hearsay. So how powerful is that?
I think that there's enough that's there to bear the question. If you look at what the founders talked about in impeachment, if you look especially at some of the writings of Madison, of Adams to Jefferson, at Franklin, this is what they talked about. And their greatest fear, and the thing I think we're hearing more about now, is not just the phone call, it's the foreign influence aspect. That was the grand fear of the founders. And certainly it was a different time, all that time ago. But here we find ourselves now with that same possibility of asking a foreign agent, a foreign nation, to become involved in our election process.
But why can't a sitting president question a foreign government before handing over billions of dollars in aid? Isn't that the duty of the president, to make sure that if we're handing money over to a certain country, that the things are not corrupt?
If that was part of a normal negotiations, if that was something that he had disclosed to Congress, that would be perfectly appropriate. This was money approved by Congress, money where remember the purse strings of the government are controlled by Congress, and he was trying to go around that. This is something where, I mean, just to throw viewers back into it, this is something like Iran-Contra, where you're going against the will of duly elected legislators who had approved funds, and the president is trying to do this for his own political gain. There was clearly a quid pro quo. This is clearly an abuse of power. The question is not whether this is constitutionally wrong. It very clearly is. The question is that this is about politics. It's not about some supreme law. It's not about some supreme authority. This is going to be fought in the halls of our Congress.
But the Republicans will say it wasn't a quid pro quo. The money was released on September 11th. Yes. All is well.
But attempted bribery is still bribery. The money was released after the whistleblower complaint was made public, after it was known to the president that he was under investigation. Just because the bribe doesn't follow through, it still meets a pretty easy threshold. If this was a criminal case, it probably would be pretty easy. But this, again, is about politics. It is the Senate that will be the deciding body, and the Supreme Court that will watch over it.
Let's talk a little bit about Joe Biden, though, because does he become vulnerable? And certainly his whole actions, I think back in 2015, and when he talked about it in 2018, that he had spoke about him threatening to withhold aid to Ukraine unless a prosecutor was fired, that prosecutor who was looking into Burisma, which Hunter Biden was also involved in. Isn't that equally as concerning?
Biden, this is like President Trump talking about Barack Obama not being born in America. This is his birther moment. Biden has been damaged by this by association. Joe Biden might.
Biden talked about this
on
camera.
Joe Biden is not someone who has been linked to corruption, domestic or foreign. He just hasn't. Now, his son got a cushy job based on nepotism. That's just the way things work, and probably they shouldn't. But the question that Joe Biden is somehow corrupt and somehow involved in 2016 and hacking and the rest, it's all nonsense, but it damages him. It still damages him in the way that President Obama was damaged by accusations leveled by then citizen Trump.
But he did say that he had, and he spoke about this publicly, that he said, I'm going to withhold this funding unless a prosecutor is fired. A lot of people will look at that and say, isn't that the same thing that we're talking about?
If enough people can understand it. Bear in mind that that's what part of today was about, too, with all four legal experts coming forward.
But it's pretty important to understand, isn't it?
It is. It really is. And how many people are going to take the time to understand that? So what it all comes down to, it's the spin. Who's got the better spin machine on which side to cause confusion? When in doubt, people don't. They don't believe. If there's doubt, that's there. So that's part of the game right now. If there were ever a more important time for the Fourth Estate, journalism, real, in-depth journalism, it's right now. Taking a look at what these professors had to say today, especially Pam Karlan from Stanford, stunning, her commentary and whatnot. Many presidents would wither under that.
But isn't she already outspoken against Trump anyway? Like, people will say, come on.
But here's the facts. Here's my facts. Here's what I'm basing this on. I'm basing this just on the Constitution. That's part of what this is all about, too. In Oklahoma today, and in Wisconsin, and in Michigan, if you're a Trump person, you could care less about that. Most people will give him a buy on something else. He did it. We all know he did it. He did do it. But, gosh golly gee whiz, he didn't really understand. He's a New York kind of a guy. This is the way they deal. It's just not, he didn't understand. And where were the folks around him to guide him? That's the other thing, is as we look at this and more comes out, you're hearing more talk from those that were around him who are saying, we did tell him this was wrong. We were concerned. We did report it, That's heavy, what's there right now.
So it's in the Judiciary Committee. Eventually, it will be in the hands of the Senate, correct?
Yeah, the idea is to have impeachment articles drawn up before the end of the year. But it's possible that this is going to be delayed because more testimony, more witnesses, more evidence. It depends what the Supreme Court does. The ball's in their court right now.